As you know, every decision we make, good or bad, leads to certain consequences. If some people doubt whether they are doing well or badly, then there is a law for this. Everything is clearly spelled out in it, what can be done, what is undesirable, and what is strictly prohibited. However, many people who break the law sincerely hope that they will not be punished for their crime. Otherwise, no crime would have been committed at all. It is the belief in one's own impunity that pushes people to illegal actions. But not only does the law stop a person at the crux of an important decision, but chance. This is exactly what our story is about today. Get comfortable, we're getting started. Our protagonist has never broken the law up to this point. He was an exemplary family man, a decent worker, and a good friend. Never before had he even considered doing something illegal. On the contrary, he strongly suppressed any talk about it and avoided participating in dubious events. Until a new family moved in next door, a husband and wife. They immediately became friends and began to spend weekends together. Once at dinner, the neighbor suggested a fishing trip. However, not fishing with rods, as was common, but with nets, which was illegal in that area. The man looked reproachfully at his neighbor and said that this was a very bad idea and he would not participate in it. However, during the evening, the neighbor stubbornly tried to persuade the man, said that there was no fish inspection in those places and no one would see them and would not know about their trip. But how many fish can be caught at a time? One has only to imagine how delighted his wife will be with such a catch. In addition, part of the caught fish can be sold and even make good money on it. Don't be a coward. Where is your spirit of adventure? Really, had he never in his life wanted to try something like that, which could be remembered in old age? As you know, water wears away the stone, and the neighbor's eloquence in the end bore fruit. After much hesitation, the man nevertheless agreed, and they set a date for the trip in 2 weeks. By that time, the neighbor promised to prepare everything, fix the nets, check the boat, and collect the necessary items. Our hero did not have to worry about anything, only to leave on the appointed day and not change his mind. 2 weeks passed, and the day of departure arrived. It had been raining heavily since morning, and nothing could be seen for a couple of feet. The man even wanted to cancel the trip, as if the weather itself was telling him not to do it. However, the neighbor was relentless and almost literally forced his friend into the car. When they arrived at the appointed place of fishing, the downpour intensified even more. The men sat in the car for a long time, hoping that the weather would calm down, but this did not happen, so they decided to go on the boat like this. They got out of the car and in the pouring rain pumped up the rubber boat, straightened the nets, loaded everything, and sailed away from the shore. They managed to cast their nets, so they began to wait. To brighten up the pastime a little, they took out alcohol and began to drink it. Several hours passed, the alcohol was long gone, and the men got bored. Having lost hope of a good catch, they decided to roll up the nets and go home. But when they pulled the net, they looked at each other happily. Apparently, they caught something very big. Having visibly cheered up, they began to pull the nets with all their might. A little more, and they would see what they managed to catch on this rainy day. But when the end of the net appeared, both men sobered up at once from the panic and terror that seized them. What they pulled with such persistence turned out to be the corpse of a man who apparently drowned in this place against his will, since his hands and feet were tied. How long he had been in the water they could not say, but he was all swollen and blue. The men's arms and legs became numb, and they threw the nets back into the water. Now they sat looking at each other, shaking either from horror or from cold, and could not utter a word. What should they do next? Just leave without telling anyone about their find? Or call the police? But if they call the police, they themselves will be arrested for illegal fishing with nets. They rowed slowly towards the shore and just as slowly decided what to do. In the end, they decided that they could not just leave the corpse here and go home, and realizing that they themselves were in danger, nevertheless, they decided to surrender and call the police. Police, rescuers from the emergency services, and divers arrived at the scene. The men showed them the approximate location of the discovery of the corpse and waited to see what would happen next. For an hour, divers combed the surrounding waters and finally found what the men were talking about. They removed the corpse from the water, which was tangled in fishing nets. The police, of course, had to draw up a report of illegal fishing, but either the find was more important, or they saw the miserable appearance of these two men, so they just wrote them down as witnesses in the case of the discovery of the corpse and sent them home. The man remembered this story for a long time about how one day he decided to break the law, but he was not lucky in this. He was stopped by a corpse. Of course, he would never allow such a thought again in his life. If you liked this story, please click like and leave your comments below the video. Bye, everyone.